Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have a pretty Christmas card for you that is very monochromatic and using some of that beautiful brightly gleaming paper that carried over from last year. I've still got a bit of it left, and so I have a pretty Mossy Meadow and Copper Christmas card. So let's just get started. Here is my card. Isn't that pretty? It's so simple as well. It's using the stitched nested dies and Mossy Meadow Card Base and a little of this beautiful Mossy Meadow and Copper Designer Series paper. And I've used a couple of different stamp sets. I wanted this to be vertical, not this way. And so I needed a stamp set a stamp that was more up and down. And I found this one called Comfort and Joy, and it's from the Most Wonderful Time stamp set. That's also one that carried over from last year. So this is a bit of a back to your stash, if you will, kind of card for us today. Nested labels have been around for a while, so you may have those. And then on the inside of the card, I have just this little piece of very vanilla offset on the inside showing off this beautiful paper, and that allowed me to have my die cut pieces centered on the front of the card. So let me tell you what it takes to make this card. Again, very fast, very easy. This one takes a card base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then I scored this a second time at 2 1/8, which is right in half of this panel. So this panel is 4 1/4. So I made a score here at 2 1/8, and the first thing we're going to do is fold that back on itself on that score line and give that a bit of a burnish here. Burnishing is real important on this card because it's doubled over like this. It has a tendency to want to stay open. So if you want your card to lay flat, you really have to give it some good burnishing. And so there we go. Then I have a piece of this beautiful Designer Series paper called Brightly Gleaming. And there's a lot of beautiful paper, and I made one the other day out of this pretty peacock and copper paper. There's just so many pretty things in here to mess with, and I just love the look of this monochromatic tone-on-tone kind of card. This piece of Designer Series paper, and it doesn't appear to be directional at all, is 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside of our card, and I think we'll just go ahead and start there and put that piece down. And we just need to get our margin set on that piece and get that put into place. All right, then I have a piece for the front of my card here that is 2 7/8. Let me make sure I'm telling you right. 1 7/8. 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, and this piece is going to go right on this panel here. Okay, so the dies that I used were the stitched nested dies, and I used the second largest die to cut my copper piece. Then I used if you count these from one being the largest, I used the second, the third, and the fifth. So the second largest die to cut my copper piece, and then because I cut this piece to go along this panel, and I ended up cutting that down my 12 by 12 sheet, I had a piece left over that was that size, and I just used it, and I really didn't care if it had the stitching on the sides. This little piece ended up with a tiny bit of stitching, but this is cut with the third largest die and sits right here. And then I skipped one and went to the fifth because I wanted more of the paper to be showing on the outside of the card. So I used again the second, the third, and the fifth largest dies to cut my labels here. I've already cut mine, as you can see here, and so now it's just a matter of doing a little bit of stamping and putting some pieces together. The first thing I'm going to do, now you can make this card so that it does this, so that it opens like this, and this piece just fits on here, this fits here, and then it just opens this way. And well, in fact, maybe we should do that one this way on this card, and that way you can see how you do it on both. So if I adhere this piece here on this one, what I did was I glued this piece down. If we don't do that, it makes for kind of an accordion fold open. So let's just add some seal to the back of my panel. Get my papers here out of the way. And this piece is going to go right here with a similar border all the way around that matches the border that we have here. So when this closes, that makes sense. It follows across. All right. Now, if we were going to make it like this card, then the next thing I would do is glue this down here and have it be flat. But in this case, we're not going to glue it down, and we're going to leave it so that it does this. The way this goes is this piece just goes on the copper piece, and I'm going to put some seal and get some seal on the points and both sides, and then set this into place so that it's got the same margin top to bottom. Okay, now we're at the point where we're going to do a little bit of stamping, and the stamps that I'm using are both photopolymer. So I'm going to use my Pierce mat and some scratch paper and my Mossy Meadow ink pad, and I have my Comfort and Joy. And what I did here was that I stamped it more in the center and then put the leaves around on the top and the bottom. This time I'm going to stamp it more towards the top and get my Comfort and Joy, and then I'm going to get my leaves put here on the bottom and get that whole leaf on the label so that it's not going off the label. I didn't like the way that it worked with the stitching there. So there we go, Comfort and Joy. And then I picked this one particularly because it kind of matched the little leaves in the paper. So there we have our label all ready to go. And then on this piece of card is cut 3 inches by 3 inches, and it just so happens that that works best around covering this part of the card without showing underneath. See, that 3 inches comes right to the edges there of that card and can be set behind there without showing. So that's why I cut that one to that size. Now on this one, on the inside, I did a little bit with my leaves, and I put one set of leaves down here on the bottom, and then I put a leaf coming in from the upper corner here on this side. And I think that's plenty of decorations. It's such a small piece of paper, I don't want to crowd anything more on it. Okay, so let's get the ink closed up and get this piece put together. Now on this one, I'm just going to adhere that to the center of that piece, and then what I did was I centered this right, those 2 points right on the fold for the card, and that way I know it's dead center on the card. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal here on my label. And again, I want to get glue on the top and the bottom so that that doesn't lift up. Then I'm going to set this right in the center, centering it top to bottom and right to left. There we go. Now, to put this down, what I decided to do was I used some dimensionals, and since I want the card to open, and it doesn't matter with this one, it's the same thing, I don't want those dimensionals to show on this side. So I have the perfect measure in that my card needs to go this way, so my dimensionals need to go on this side, and they should not go past that point there, and in fact I don't even want it to get close. But I'm going to use quite a few dimensionals because I want this to stay down, since this is the mechanism that people use to open and close the card. So maybe more dimensionals than I need, but that's okay. And just make sure that they get on this half of the card. I don't know about that one. I may try to move him over. There we go. All right. And so this piece is ready to go on our card front. And I've got the perfect measure. I'm going to eyeball that from top to bottom, and then I want the point of that corner there to be right on the fold of the card, and put those dimensionals down, and there we go. That is awfully pretty when you open it up like that, and standing, it stands and looks a bit like that when it's open, versus this one that still stands, no problem there, but is a little bit simpler in that it's folded back on itself. All right, now how to get this piece right behind where we want it? Well, the first thing we're going to do is add some seal to the back of this, and then we are going to put this, let's see, we want this to sit like this, so it's going to have to go right in here. So I'm going to set this down right here so that it's just hidden from the front of the card, and then just close that in place, and it is perfectly positioned then, so that when the card is closed you don't see the white, and when it's open you can see your message. I just think it's such a pretty card. So much fun. So there you have it. There are the two versions of my card, one where it is glued down and one where it is open. I have to say that on retrospect, I really do like this one better. I think I do. All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Joining Stampin' Up! I think is an excellent bargain. Right out of the box, you get $125 worth of product for $99, and you start out with 20% discount on everything you order. Being on my team is lots of fun. We get together and we do swaps, and we have Zoom meetings, and where we can, we get together in person. I spend time with as many of my demonstrators that have time to spend with me. So if you're ever interested or tempted at all, you're going to make cards anyway, and you're going to buy product, and you might as well do it at a discount. In any case, that's it for me today. Let's see, it's November, and my November prize is a $50 shopping spree on me for this month, so that you can get whatever it is you'd like to get. And all it takes to be in my drawing is to put an order of any size on my blog, or my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can also get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!